Still in your ship.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Nice.
318, the future is bright for cargo.
We're moving away from the simplistic implementation that we had before into something that's
Lights are back.
more
Oh,
of
thank
a
you,
real
Goodums.
simulation.
I didn't realize you
Yeah,
could
I'm gonna
fix
have
it.
to freaking
With the new physicalized
adjust my
cargo
audio
Oh,
built
I'm
in
glad it
stores for us
crashed because it
to give some new
fucking
gameplay.
allowed me to climb up the stairs.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Cargo
See where I'm
today
at? There's
is
the
pretty
freaking
basic. You
rear
go to a
remote
kiosk, you
seat right
use an
next to
interface, you
I
load your
see
ship,
your
it
head is
automatically
just
loads.
the only thing I
Get
see
in that
right now,
ship,
like
you
your
drive that
image.
ship to a port, and then you
Yeah.
sell what you bought. But
Awesome.
there's not a lot of interesting
Fuck yeah,
choices there.
turret system.
With the current implementation,
I'm
whenever
gonna watch
we
this shit,
designed
though.
it,
I wanna
we
see this
did
stream.
not have
Wow, this
the
scene looks
tractor
really
beams
good.
that we have now. What that meant is that you were not able to pick up and manipulate the larger 1SU boxes. At the time, all that you could do was pick up the smaller 1/8 SU boxes, but this gave us a problem for piracy
Keenan, I'll
and
see you
looting
soon,
in
man.
general, in that the really
Yeah, sorry,
valuable
man,
things
engineer.
are sold and bought in these
Goodums is the
1SU
engineer.
boxes in higher volumes, but the only thing the player can actually pick up are the smaller ones. So what we had to do is a kind of hack in the cargo system such that when a vehicle explodes, instead of generating the larger 1SU boxes on destruction, it actually generates the smaller ones in this kind of gamey, magical way, so that the player can actually go pick up some of the boxes from the destruction.
All right, let me give you an example. The C2 has 696 SCU, which equates to 5,568 1/8
C2.
SCU boxes that you have to loot. But the ship exploding should damage some of those boxes, and we want to have about 40 to 50% survive that explosion, so that's still about 2,000 1/8 SCU boxes.
But then there's server performance issues to consider. So what we've actually been doing is capping that at 10% boxes being generated. However, on
Damn.
top of that, it's an incredibly tedious experience, because now that's, if you were to do the math, about 400 boxes that you have to go pick up, and collecting all of those by hand without a tractor beam.
He just shakes
With
his
the new
head.
system, we've gotten rid of the 1/8 SCU cargo containers. Everything is one
Oh,
SCU
jeez.
cargo containers. So in the case of
What's up?
the C2 with the 696 SCU, that would be 696 1 SCU boxes rather than 5,000
Bro, I
plus.
fucked up. I
Every
accidentally clicked
single
the
one of
direct
those
message
boxes
button. I don't
is
know
a
how to-
real entity in the game, like
I don't
any
know how
other
to get out of
entity
that.
in the game. It is tracked in the database as a persistent entity now that
I
we
don't
have the
know
new
what button
persistent
that is.
entity streaming
Be
architecture.
my fat
And it
fucking
means that
face.
now that they're entities that are persistent, they can be interactable. So now you can do things like use the tractor beams to pull them out of the cargo hold or put them into a cargo
Oh,
hold.
that's pretty cool.
It also means that whenever we do ship destruction with the new system, we don't have to generate anything. Instead, all that we do is we take the entities that were already created and we just simply detach them from the cargo hold and let them float in space. Now, we still want to have some of that explosive destruction, so there's a certain amount of
Fixed it.
variable amount
figure
of
out
that
what
cargo
button
that
I
is
want to hit,
destroyed
so I
on
don't
ship
do it
destruction.
anymore.
We're actually giving you back somewhere.
So
It's
they are gonna
actually
leave it
0
like
to
that.
90%, but that's calculated every time your ship explodes. So what happens then is now we're actually hitting that 40 to 50% number on average.
This means that both for players that want to reclaim
you're
the
good,
cargo that
Smagaby.
they lost on ship destruction,
Holy hell, it's
or for
raining
pirates
boxes.
that want to scoop up their ill-gotten gains, then they'll have an easier time to get at it, and there'll be more value there when they try to do so.
There is also the new commodity kiosk flow, which is a step in the right direction for helping
Oh,
you
look at this.
understand what you're buying and what you're selling and what's available at the places where you buy and sell commodities. It's the new UI. It's the new building block UI, so it should be a lot easier to understand and gives you a graphical representation as you're buying and selling of
Awesome.
how much space that you
okay.
have on the ship that you're buying and selling into.
What's up?
318 is not the end of the Cargo
just the
Refractor.
stuff
There's
on
lots
this,
of stuff
stream.
that we're in the design
Oh, yeah.
process
Pretty
for right
promising.
now,
I'm trying to-
including manual loading and unloading, as well as automatic loading and
Should move
unloading.
money around.
We're also looking at some big box cargo missions that separate the
Video's
cargo
almost over.
from
Just
the
wanna check
hauling
this out real
professions. So that's
All
something
good.
to look
All good.
forward
I'm
to.
in no rush either.
We have a lot more content coming
Well, now I
that
won't
use
just
these
blow up
new
from
features.
asteroids, and now
We
we'll
hope
collide
you
with
enjoy it in
boxes.
318.
And as a coda to all of that, Chris Roberts actually came by my desk the other day,
Ooh,
and we
Chris
talked a
Rob-
bit how it was unfortunate that we even have to allow players to lose 40 to 50% of the cargo. And we talked and decided that we would try to come up with an interim solution on our path to physicalized damage that would allow us to leave the husks of ships behind on vehicle destruction instead of just exploding them and erasing all the contents. This would allow players to explore the ships and find the cargo and physically move it off the husks of the ships, rather than just generating a percentage of the boxes on destruction.
Like every other aspect of Star Citizen's continuing development,
in the
the
Connie
Cargo
Phoenix.
Refractor isn't a one drop and it's done kind of feature. And the first implementation, much like persistent entity streaming alongside it in the upcoming Alpha 3.18,
Damn, they
is
really
about
upped their quality.
rebuilding existing functionality within an entirely new foundation that will now set the stage for the persistent universe to reach its fullest potential in subsequent patches to come. And while we're here talking about new technologies designed to be built upon from one patch to the next,
Yes, it's
let's chat us
crazy.
up some Rastar, the internal tool that we've been
Rastar.
developing now
for
that's
the-
currently in use, placing
the base
outposts
building.
throughout both the Stanton and Pyro systems.
Just so we can do our bases in the future.
The whole purpose of Rastar is to make the thing easier for the devs to place location at the surface of a planet. And in the end, it will be used as the system for player to build their bases.
Yo, French toast with the sub. Oh
We
man,
have
that's
Rastar
D's with the
because the
gifting.
previous system based on prefab was quite
This man is
hard to
gifted subs,
use
bro.
and not up to scale for the
Thanks,
for the
man, I
scale
appreciate it,
and the
homie.
scope we want for our
Some
planet
sub hype for
density.
D's,
No
bro.
Any
Nice.
changes to the planetary generation, like for example,
Ow!
you just
Man's an
change a
animal.
canyon, you add a canyon to the planet, you'll have to redrop
So what are they talking
every
about on the
modules
fucking?
at the surface of
What
a
are they
planet
talking about on
to
the
be sure
video?
they are well aligned with the new terrain
This is
and
how
the new
they, their
modifications
tool
of the
for
terrain.
making
Rastar makes that better
outposts.
by
And
allowing
this is what
first
they're
of
gonna
all,
use,
the
but
ability
eventually we're
to
gonna use this to
directly
build our
follow
bases.
the modification of terrain topology,
Oh,
so we
okay.
don't have to refresh anything. Plus, it gives us more granularity and modularity of the locations.
That's sick.
That is awesome.
Backers should be caring about
On another
Rastar
note,
and
Kyrie
all these
Irving just got
improvements because
suspended
that's
without
the
pay
way
for
we
5
will be
games.
able
That's
to
fucked.
give
That's
you,
fast.
the players, the most dense area we can imagine to keep in line
But that
and
looks
have all the
sick.
planets, all the moons filled with
We're about to have full
POI
ass
and
cities
things
in
to
there.
do on the surface.
Oh, dude, that's
And
gonna be
maybe
awesome.
later,
Oh,
Are they gonna
include
add-
plants?
of this planet and moons.
Yeah. Oh, I see that. Are they gonna have more
CitizenCon
solar systems?
2951.
Yes.
It changed not much in terms
Okay.
of visual.
The next
Most
planetary
of the UI
system is called
reworked,
Pyro.
but
It's coming out next
features
year.
are all there.
Okay. Cool.
Just
cool.
a lot of
you,
internal
know a
work
date?
to allow
No.
the new build location to
Alright.
fit more.
But this
and
is
be
Pyro
more
right here. I
productive.
can tell by like
So
the
now we
planet
can
and the
have
buildings.
modules and elements that are nested and indented so we better understand what depends on what. And we also added the ability to collapse parts.
Like
of
if you
the
notice
tool,
the
so
outposts here in Stanton,
to have
they're
that
all on
better
like fucking
understanding and more
stilts.
focused
Yeah.
work
They
on
didn't
some
have this
parts
tech yet.
of the tool. We also worked on better tools integration, so now we are able to use the base tools of the editor,
Very
such as
interesting.
gizmos or roller bar, to modify some elements of Rastar, which was not possible previously due to some breaking while doing so, and to keep consistency with the Rastar flow. But with that changes now, most of the in-edited tools are usable with Rastar without any risk. We also
These with the
moved
flippy
the
floppy.
object containers used for Rastar to streaming object
Yeah, this guy's
containers
a
to
legend.
keep in line with the whole streaming process of the network system. So now we gave the ability for the
Wow.
server to load and spawn and despawn some locations and elements at will to avoid crowding the whole server memory.
Okay.
And we also now converted the whole connector system that was presented during the last CitizenCon to item ports. So now, again, to keep in line with the in-house way we do
He's
things
got the
and
ticket.
to better integrate some elements such as the resource network that will later be available on the locations. I'm quite happy with the result of Rastar. There is quite some work to do on it,
Yeah,
But
there's
the
a
result
ship
is
for base
amazing,
building.
and I'm pretty sure you're gonna love the location where it will
that-
roll
that
out
makes
with,
sense.
From
Rasta.
Consolidated Outlands. It looks really cool, but it's gonna be like
What
one of
did
the
we learn
last
this
ships we
week?
get.
Well, we learned that the Cargo Refractor will physicalize the manner in which we transport goods in such a way that makes retrieval after disaster or collection after piracy easier and more rewarding than ever
piracy.
before. That it's the new
They go all out
foundation
with
for an
their
entirely
fucking-
new
with these
trade experience
videos.
that will
That's
continue
pretty
to
Yeah,
cool.
develop
this
over
new
subsequent
studio looks
patches.
insane.
That it may yet
like
have
modeled
some
after a
fortunate
Constellation
side
Phoenix.
effects on vehicle destruction, ship husks, and salvage in the not too distant future. And that the Rastar tool, first introduced at last year's CitizenCon, is already being used to populate the planets of Pyro in next year's 4.0
I like how this man is
and
dumbing it
Stanton
down for me.
in this December's upcoming Alpha 318. Now don't forget that this year's Intergalactic Aerospace
318?
Expo is right around the corner.
Right around the
You can
corner,
go
babe.
to the
Right around the
robertspaceinstitute.com
corner, babe.
website to find out all the details. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you all here next week.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. Alright, let's get in there.